Okay, good morning. Good morning. It's 9:30 a.m. on May 14th, 2025. This is a public deliberation in case number 2024-0190-A. This is a petition for a variance related to 2621-2623 Brannan Road, which is in the 7th Councilmanic District. The legal owner is Edgemere Wildlife Trust. This case is a request for a variance of setbacks. It's a the specific request is for a front setback variance from the required 40 feet to 34 feet, and a setback on the left side from the required 25 feet to 8 feet. So the requirements for a variance of this sort is that the property must be unique in some way, that size, shape, topography, environment, something of that sort, and the uniqueness must result in a practical difficulty if the variance is not granted. So we heard from expert witnesses from both sides as well. Well, that's basically what we heard from. So does anyone want to start? Anyone have any views? I can start if you want. Doesn't matter.
I appreciate your wisdom, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I would say, just initially though, I appreciate the memoranda filed by everybody in the case. I thought they made us really think about the issues and whatever. And People's Counsel, as you know, also weighed in. So I do want to, for the record, state that I really valued the memorandum in this matter by all three parties, if you will.
Yes, well, interesting that you should say that, because I share that sentiment.
I was actually going to say something to the same effect, because it's always nice when everyone works hard to make our job easier.
Yeah, really.
If it was easier.
Yeah, well, they didn't make it easier, but
Well,
necessarily.
To fully flesh out everything that it is that we need to think about, which is
right.
not
I mean,
often the case, to be honest.
It's not often the case that we get three excellent memoranda, and
I agree.
Yeah, so that's a well taken point. As to the merits, I don't like to keep people in suspense. So for me, jumping to the bottom line, I would grant the variances. I think that there is a unique, that the property is unique in the sense that it is small, and its shape is weird, it's unique, and the road encroaches on it, which makes it even smaller and more misshapen. I think that it's necessary to look at the area around the property, and I think that the area around this property, reasonably understood, shows this to be it's also a corner lot, shows it to be a corner lot that's different than the other corner lots and different than the other non-corner lots. So I would find it to be unique in that sense. And as to practical difficulty, notwithstanding the excellent memorandum from People's Counsel, I think that People's Counsel overstated the requirements for practical difficulty. It is not impossibility. So one could envision a weirdly shaped house, non-rectangular house being built on this property, but that's not a house that anyone would really want. It's not a house that is consistent with the development and the neighborhood. And the only rational approach, it seems to me, in terms of the development, is to build a house on the same footprint as the prior building that existed for many, many years without any real difficulties, except for some problematic tenants and the fact that it was a duplex that we dealt with before. But in terms of the Cromwell test, and the Cromwell test, I found, I don't have any real trouble finding that this satisfies the Cromwell test, and I credit Mr. Rupp's testimony significantly. There was this whole thing about the triangle, which I found to be a fairly massive non sequitur, and didn't really add anything, and actually I thought was something of a diversion that I didn't really understand, and so I want to mention that, but it didn't enhance Mr. Kellman's testimony. So that's my view, for what it's worth.
Okay, I will agree with you, Mr. Chairman, and I think the question is, in terms of uniqueness, first hits me, and you kind of go back to, I mean, it in my thinking, if it makes any difference, I guess it was alleged in 1938, this footprint was approved.
Right.
This footprint was approved by Baltimore County. We probably didn't have the setback requirements. We probably had building permits of some sort back then.
I don't know that we
wasn't
had
around
zoning.
then, a little after then, but
Yeah.
it wasn't around then. But
Hmm.
my point is that if this bill, the uniqueness comes from, in part, Baltimore County granting this approval for the foundation that's still the foundation that we're going to build today. And that was part of my
Right.
thinking in this whole thing. I think we would really deny reasonable use of the property if, in fact, we don't grant this variance, or these two variances. We saw the shape on the exhibit of what the property might look like, and I think the size was 18.5 by 25. That's my recollection.
Right.
Something to
Right.
that effect. And, I mean, it's a very, very, very small house on a lot there. And then the shape of it, I can still envision in my mind that was drawn on the exhibit. I also, I think the criteria in terms of whether it is possible to build another building, but the practical difficulty would result in that, in terms of really making it unusable in my estimation, and this hardship would be created. I think this is a special circumstance or condition as defined in the case law. I think it's unique. I don't know what else to say other than the shape combined with the topography of the topography of the land, the road coming in. I don't think we're going to find too many others that have that anywhere. And I am convinced that we should also grant this this variant, these two variances. That's kind of my take.
Mhm.
I agree with you, gentlemen. I think that the combination of the size, you were expecting me to say something. No, the size
Well,
and
there was a pregnant pause there.
the combination of the size and the shape together, I think, and like you said, with the road intruding, creates the uniqueness. And I think that, um, just because you can are able to build a smaller structure, I think there's case law that says that you don't have to be limited to that. That may still be considered unreasonably burdensome under the case law, and that's what I would say here.
Well, the building would be bizarre.
Yes,
I
just
mean,
too small
you
to be
couldn't
useful.
sell it. You couldn't,
And I would think also, just to weigh in on this, that if you went back and looked at other buildings that were built at that time or around that time and did a current setback things, you would find that many of them would not meet the current standards for setbacks.
it's
Which,
probably true too, yeah.
yeah,
But sort of one of the things I sort of thought about, and we've not been asked to decide this, which is, we said that they're not allowed to have the duplex anymore. They lost that use. But, did they really even need a variance? Because, presumably the setbacks as they were when there was a duplex were non-conforming then, and they were grandfathered just like the duplex was. They stopped using it as a duplex, but did they stop using it as a building altogether? Or, they didn't ask us to decide this. They asked for the variances, so that's fine. But
I think it was
I'm
for
sort of,
the use. It was for the non-conforming use as opposed to the structure itself, separating use from the structure, if you will.
Plus the structure was essentially demolished, so,
sure.
Right.
maybe if they had just remodeled the interior of the building to make it into a single family
But
dwelling.
nobody would have said they needed variances at that point. They would have
Yeah.
been okay for them to continue.
Right.
Anyway, it's neither here nor there. They asked us to grant them a variance, and that's what we're here for. But anyway, all right. Well, that's all. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Okay, so we've agreed unanimously that the two variances are approved, and unless anyone has any further comments, I think that is everything that we need, all the business we need to cover today, correct?
Yes.
All right, good. Well, and again, we thank all council, not only for their memos, but for the presentations as well. They were very, very good. And, this has been a property that's generated some contention, and it's nice to see that at least there's some, there's some civility here, and I hope that continues on into the future. So anyway, okay, well, we're adjourned. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.